Okay, hello everyone and welcome to this emergency surprise update to the COVID-19 playlist. This is the 2021 update. I'm recording on March the 16th, so you know exactly when we are. Now a lot has happened actually since just last week when all of these videos came out, which essentially basically played perfectly into the contents of the videos that I gave you last week. Now I know this week is all loads of ecology stuff going up, but I wanted to put this one in because on Sunday, unbelievably remarkably, due to other conversations I was having, I will go into in a moment, I got the jab. Okay, this was a complete surprise to me, and by a complete surprise I don't mean something like this, right, that I was training for in Ecuador in 2014, and when I first started getting this picture out again, my wife said to me, "You'll be making a lot of use out of that picture, won't you, during this vaccination campaign?" And yes, you don't learn to use a blow dart gun in the Amazon not to make use of it when you're talking about surprise vaccinations. Right, so I got this vaccine, and I'm going to try and explain to you why. So what we're going to why and how. So what we're going to talk about in this is the following updates. So essentially, I've got a public service announcement about group number 6, which is essentially was news to me and a complete surprise to me, but actually is something that the NHS say that they're struggling to get across to people. So the nurse I spoke to, the practice nurse I spoke to, said, please, please, please tell everybody that you can that this is the case. I also want to talk then because on the exact day that I had the jab, and it was AstraZeneca, all this news this week about the AstraZeneca vaccine started coming out about countries pausing their use. And obviously it played perfectly into what I was talking about in terms of the different questions that scientists ask compared to the media and compared to governments. And the way that they communicate is, I think, at the root again of this problem. Okay, and then of course I'm going to end, because being a biology teacher I got my vaccination filmed, and then I kept a video diary of all my symptoms, all my side effect stuff, and up until now, whereas you can see I'm feeling absolutely fine and chipper and brilliant. Okay, so why did I get vaccinated? Well, currently we're working our way down through the different groups, as you can see up here. So care homes done, all those 80 over done, 75 done, blah, 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 blah. You come all the way down here, so through your sort of 65-year-olds, then you get down to group 6, okay, which is adults aged 16 to 65 in at-risk group C clinical conditions below. Now, I didn't think at all, right, that I would qualify in that group at all, and as many of you will think, surely Mr. Gill, he there is a fine physical specimen, you know, completely unharmed, almost godlike in his stature, and you would of course be only partially correct. Right, I am in fact a childhood asthmatic. Now it doesn't affect me at all really anymore, right? But if we look into the definition, and this is what the nurse was telling me, because I actually phoned the clinic to try and become a vaccinator, right? And then I got chatting about asthma, and she said, oh well, actually if you're a childhood asthmatic, you're in group 6, would you like a vaccine? And our question is, how do I qualify for a vaccine? And she said, well, if you look down the list here, right, certainly for things like asthma, a chest complaint or breathing difficulties, including bronchitis, emphysema, or severe asthma. Now, it's the definition of severe that I think we all need to understand exactly what the government means. This is straight off the government website, gov.uk, and it says, for further definitions, look into their very complicated PDF called the COVID Green Book. Now, I have read that through for you and basically dug out this bit here, right? So under chronic respiratory disease, it says individuals with a lung condition, including those with asthma, that require continuous repeated systematic steroids, or with previous, so that's basically people who were on a brown inhaler, a preventer inhaler. Now I'm not on that, I haven't been for years, hence I didn't think I counted, okay? And then down here we've got this idea, previous exacerbations requiring hospital admission. Now, when I was a child, right, so we're talking 30 years ago, more here, I was hospitalised a number of times for my asthma. Okay, generally it was my grandmother's very, very dusty house that did it to me when I went to stay with her. But I did get hospitalised for asthma, and the nurse picked up that this was on my record and said, no, you do count. Now, I don't think that I'm the first priority, but they say they're struggling to get people who count through the door, right? They're actually getting to a point now where they want people to be aware and to come through the door before they then open the doors to everybody in the lower age groups. So public service announcement, if you feel that you might be, for not just asthma, that's the one I know about, but for any of these ones, actually have a look into the definitions in that green book. And if in doubt, consult your clinician, because a number of people I work with, I've passed this information on as requested by this nurse, and they've actually phoned up and have counted as well and have got their vaccines, okay, which obviously is great for us as teachers because we are in the front line here, talking to students all the time, which, it's absolutely brilliant that they're back. I'm at the end of a full day of teaching and I've still got the energy to do one of these videos, which is absolutely great. So yeah, welcome back, students. It's great to have you. Okay, it's also why I'm looking slightly smarter than normal as well. Right, so that is essentially how I ended up getting the vaccine on Sunday. Now, more on that, right? It's now Tuesday, so more on that as we go through. But at the exact same time as I'd had this vaccine and I was sort of feeling some of the side effects and thinking, oh, that's really exciting, oh, I can still feel the injection site and all that malarkey. All this news started coming out about countries in Europe stopping temporarily the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine specifically. So Germany, France, Italy and Spain are the big countries now, but of course it started with Iceland, Ireland, the Netherlands, that kind of stuff. And this is from the BBC here, this is their health article, and you can see all the links to all the other articles I'm going to put up in that article. They said they were pausing the rollout following reports of blood clots in some recipients, blood clots, solid lumps, blah, blah, blah. You know what a blood clot is, okay? So there's the link, right? And if you trace it back, so I've gone back to source for you because, it's kind of my job to go back to the source here. This is from the Norwegian Institute of Public Health. So this is their paper they've put out, or their report they've put out. Norwegian Medicine Agency notified of blood clots and bleeding in younger people after vaccination with AstraZeneca vaccine. So Norwegian Medicine Agency is asking people who've had the AstraZeneca vaccine to look for severe blue patches, so on stuff, hemorrhages and all that kind of stuff, bruising. And if we look down here, this is actually the numbers of people that we're talking about. So, as it says there, if we read through, informed about an unexpected death from brain hemorrhage after a vaccine with COVID-19. And then if we go further down there, it says put on hold because they've actually found another 3 cases. We've received 3 more reports of severe cases of blood clots or brain hemorrhage in younger people who have received the AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, anyone who's my student, in fact, one student said this to me at just completely appropriate of nothing today, which is great, means that I'm getting through to them. Is this correlation or is it a causal link, right? Now, there's no biological mechanism that we know of that would mean a vaccine could cause blood clots, right? It just absolutely, we don't, you could make one up, speculate, but there's no known correlations, no known mechanism by which it could do that. But out of an abundance of caution, the right thing to do if there's any question is just to pause and go, hey, wait, hang on a minute, and then have a look and then carry on. If you remember, during the development of the AstraZeneca and Pfizer vaccines, there was a guy who got meningitis, right, who was in the vaccine group. And the vaccination was paused for about 5 days while they confirmed that that case of meningitis, I believe it was meningitis, was not actually to do with the vaccine, and then they carried on. This is another example of that, okay? But you have 4 people, young people, getting brain hemorrhages. That sounds too much of a coincidence. Well, let's actually look at how common clotting issues really are, okay? Turns out they're quite common. So 17 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine have been given in Europe so far, 1 into this arm, okay? 37 people in total, because they keep records on this across the country, AstraZeneca keep records of this, 37 people have had blood clotting issues in that 17 million, right? So that's 15 events of deep vein thrombosis and 22 events of pulmonary embolism reported among those given the vaccine based on the number of cases the company has received as of the 8th of March. So that's from a press release and a detailed report from AstraZeneca on the 14th of March 2020. I'll put the link in the description if you want to look at any of these sources, okay? Now, if you go dig in as well and they go, okay, well, how does that relate to a normal rate of embolisms? Well, it basically looks like this. About, on average, across the population, 1 person per 1,000 per year. So 1 person in 1,000 every year, 1 person per 1,000 per year will get a clotting issue of some sort, deep vein thrombosis, an embolism, something like that. They are quite a common cause of illness, and that comes from this article here, which again, I will put is a proper research paper, and I'll put the link in the description so you can have a look for yourself. So let's do a really rough calculation. Now, this is the kind of what I call back of an envelope calculation. Obviously, there's a lot of other factors in here, but just to get a rough idea to put some of these figures in proportion, because, it's a Tuesday afternoon. I enjoy doing some maths right now and again. So 37 clotting problems out of 17 million vaccinated people, right? Normal is 1 in 1,000. Okay. Now, if we multiply all that up, 17 million divided by 1,000, that would be, 17,000 expected cases per year, right? Rough, we're talking rough numbers here, okay? AstraZeneca, so that's be 1 in 1,000 out of 17 million. So 17,000 expected cases per year. Now, obviously it hasn't been a year that the AstraZeneca vaccination has existed. It's only been about 4 months and been licensed. So if we basically then cut that down, so that 1 in 1,000 or that 17,000 expected cases is actually, we need to reduce that for a third of a year. Okay, it's 4 months, about a third of a year. So 17,000 divided by 3 is about 570 or 5,670 odd expected cases, right? It's rough numbers, right? So that is obviously much, 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 much higher than the 37 that we've seen. But the paper, the Norwegian paper, did specifically say in young people, right? This was in young people. So if you go back to that article, that research paper that I pointed out, it does say, yes, they get more common and less common in young people, more common. Now, so if we just take under 40-year-olds in that paper, it basically drops by a factor of 10. 1 in 10,000 people per year will get a clotting issue. So essentially, we need to divide our number there, right, by 10, right? So but we still get to 567-ish expected cases out of a random selection of people of 17 million in the population. Okay, now obviously there's loads of other factors at play here. This is just a rule of thumb, but that's 15 times more people, right? 15 times more people than the 37 that we've seen. So the numbers don't really add up. There's no biological mechanism and the numbers don't add up. So if you were being really dodgy with your statistics, you could say actually only 37 in 17 million people means that the AstraZeneca vaccine prevents clots. But that would be a stupid thing to say because, of course, there's no mechanism, right? So basically it just shows that the numbers really don't add up. It is worth checking, of course, okay? And we'll get to why is this? Why are we being so dramatic about this then? Well, essentially, right, this is what we call the precautionary principle. Everything in vaccine trials, and we are still trialling this, even though it's been licensed for wider use, there's still science going on, there's still studying going on. This is called the precautionary principle, and it's normal for drugs and it's normal for vaccines, okay, to be treated in this way. Okay, so in fact, just today actually, the AstraZeneca vaccine, the EU regulators say they're firmly convinced that the benefits outweigh the cost. The difference is we're in the middle of a pandemic and everyone's championing the bit to get out of the pandemic. So normally these pauses in drug trials or these pauses in drug usage don't attract such scrutiny, don't attract such attention. So this overly dramatic reporting is because we're all eyes on the vaccine program. Okay, so it's more example of bad or overly dramatic media, in my view. Okay, so let's look at an example of this. The BBC is guilty of this today as well. So within lots and lots and lots of articles on this, you can see this headline: Is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine safe? Now that implies there is a question about its safety, which the BBC immediately backs off of when you click on that link, because then the headline, the article it actually takes you to, says, what is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine? And goes into what it actually is. But how many people do you think don't click those links and just read, is the Oxford AstraZeneca safe? Particularly if it's above, is Europe's AstraZeneca jab decision-making flawed, and why is the EU having vaccine problems? That there, COVID, what is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine? That is a fine headline, right? Is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine safe? Is not, okay, in my view, right? It's overly dramatising and it's causing public discourse to be pushed in the wrong direction in the sort of pursuit of what they call balance. Right, so anyway, let's move on. My prediction goes as follows, right? This will be a minor pause, a brief pause, and various governments will basically just go, all right, yep, brilliant. Right, they'll have a look at it. They'll get their various drugs regulatory, because bear in mind this is individual governments. This isn't EU-wide. Right, this is various sovereign governments going, which, yes, believe it or not, within the EU you still are. Right, so we'll go, yep, this is absolutely fine. The media will push out more dramatic headlines. It will rumble on for about another week, and then they'll be relicensed and the vaccine program will start again. The only thing that will happen in that week, which I think is crucial, is a harm to vaccine confidence in European countries and in the UK, because people don't have that ability to analyse the data themselves. Okay, so this is literally my job, right? Communicating science to non-specialists and making them a little bit more specialist in understanding this data. This is my job, and it winds me up when it's being done wrong. Okay, and when it's so important, right? Because during this time, during this pause, right, how many more people are going to contract COVID and die from it? Okay, during this, not say the pause shouldn't happen, but it should be reported in a way that puts it in the context that it is. And if lots of people get the idea that it's not safe from headlines like this, thank you BBC, right, then of course how many more people are going to die, and how long is this how much longer is this pandemic going to go on, right? So as I said in the media and science video, right, we all have a responsibility to communicate better, and this is what I'm trying to do for you in these videos. Okay, so now obviously I'm going to give you my experience, and I love this quote that I'm going to give you, and this is where I will hand you straight over to my video diary of the last 48 hours. Okay, the plural of anecdote is not data, so this is my experience. This is an anecdote, right? It's not a scientific study, it's not a set of data, right? For that, you need to look at healthcare bodies, you need to look at AstraZeneca, you need to look at the manufacturers, and so on and so forth. This is simply my experience of what the jabbing was like, okay? Right, so my experience may be unusual, right? I don't know. It probably isn't, right? I often describe myself as world's most average man. I'm average height, average age, average health, right? So I'm probably pretty boring and normal, right, in terms of my response to this jab. But you can't take broad things from one example. So these are all the caveats I'm putting on it. But this is my experience of what the side effects are like. Please don't take medical advice from me specifically, right? Broad advice on the area of medicine, biology and science communication. Yes, that is my job and that's what I'm supposed to do. But please consult your own physicians and your own doctors for actual medical advice. So this is my video diary of the side effects around the COVID AstraZeneca vaccine, including footage of my own vaccination, graciously taken by a volunteer at Stratford-upon-Avon Hospital. So thank you very much to everyone who's involved there, and I hope you find it interesting and useful. Okay, so here I am, Stratford Hospital, ready to get my first dose of the vaccine. So yeah, absolutely brilliant, very excited, a little bit nervous, we'll see how it goes.
No heavy or dubious.
So that's it, dose one all done. Can't feel a thing so far, nothing in the old arm. She was very, very good, so you know, we'll see how we go for the rest of the day. But yeah, first dose all done. It's been a couple of hours in this arm over here, and I can't actually feel anything. I don't feel any of the nausea or fever that some people are saying that they've got. Maybe that's just me, or maybe it hasn't come on yet. I mean, and I can't even feel the injection site, apart from when my wife accidentally grabs or hits me there. So far so good. I mean, I've even been able to go out for a walk, do the gardening, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. 5 or 6 hours after jab, and I've been able to use the arm, move everything around, lugged a whole bunch of wood chips around, so yeah, absolutely no symptoms so far. I'm not feeling any of the tiredness or any of the fever yet. So yeah, nothing major so far, but maybe 8 hours, just starting to get a little tiny bit of the hotness I was expecting. Okay, that's just an inflammatory reaction, perfectly ordinary bit of biology. Okay, we'll see what happens tomorrow. A little bit of a disturbed night in terms of feeling hot and feeling fluey, which is what they said on the information would happen. So that was pretty normal, and it's now sort of came on maybe 11 o'clock midnight and started to go away about 3. So if I were to give some advice, if you have yours early in the morning like I did, it's probably going to hit you in the evening or the night. So take some paracetamol and have a light dinner before you go to bed. But yeah, I seem to be feeling much better now, so off to work, and we'll see how it goes today. Okay, so back from work, and all symptoms have now gone, it would seem. There's a bit of soreness left in the arm, but the any of the fluey stuff just melted away completely in the beginning of the morning. So nice one, Oxford and AstraZeneca. Immunity, here we come.